So today I've got the review of the Jetbeam Jet KO02. Looking at 1800 lumens out of a Cree XHP35, so it's a cool white beam. Let's just open it up and then go through the rest of the package. Cool, so I've actually opened it already and been using it, but I thought I'd just box it up so you could see. Pretty sparse stuff it comes with, but it's everything you need to use it. So you got the light, some warranty cards, a spare O-ring, quality inspection, some silica so it stays dry, little lanyard, and this is the cool bit. So there's your USB charging. Once you plug it in, you get a spare USB port, and then you just focus that. So USB port, and then you get the USB-C connector, which is really cool. If you've got an older phone, I guess, they'll be using either Lightning or micro USB. The latest generations of phone all use wireless and or USB-C. So if you don't have USB-C right now, you'll find you get lots more USB-C in the future. So it was very smart of them to move to this cabling system now. Right, so the main light itself. So as I said, I've been using it when it was straight out of the box, all perfectly new, so no magnet at the end or anything. This is basically just a light, which is kind of cool, and I'll go through why afterwards. You've got a single button, and on the back a rubber cover for the USB-C charging port. Now it's rated to be IPX8, so what is it, 1.5 or 2 meters underwater for 30 minutes. One thing I do want to draw your attention to is I cooled it down with some water during testing, and it does seem some water did get in, and that was while this was firmly shut. So I'll follow up with them after posting this, but that was slightly disappointing. Aside from that, that's pretty much my only complaint, but yeah. So the modes, if you take a look at this, you get turbo, so 1800 lumens, you get that for almost 2 hours. You also get 1060 lumens, then to 360 lumens, 80 lumens, 12 lumens for eco. So there's no moonlight, but you get a low essentially, which was a decent low. Basically, whenever you push the on button, you get turbo. It always starts on turbo, and then every time you push the button, it gradually drops down to eco, and then starts on turbo again. Double click for strobe, push again for turbo. So the way this one works is one push turns on, every successive tap changes modes, hold to turn off. If you want to, you can hold it while off, it'll flash twice, and then it's locked out. Every time you push it, it'll only do this briefly. But for me, that was a bit weird the first time I saw it, but it actually has a really brilliant use. So one of my issues with some lights is that you can lock it out, but then if you need it in a sudden emergency, or like, you know, let's say you're being attacked as the worst case here, you've got to unlock it. What I really like about this is even if you forget it's locked, you squish it, you at least get that second of brightness to blind someone or whatever you're doing, that lets you then deal with what you need to, which is hold it again and then use it as intended. So I quite like that. It's really simplistic in that way. It's got a bunch of modes. You access each by turning it on and pushing the button over and over again. Alright, so this is the Jetbeam KO02. This is on turbo. Then we go high, medium, low, eco, back to turbo. And for comparison, that's turbo on the Olight Seeker 2 Pro. It's whatever the lowest on Seeker 2 Pro is. And the next up next up. So one quick shot again. So Olight KO02 Pro on the highest mode, and the Jetbeam KO02 on the highest mode. And you can see here on the left that the Jetbeam's got a much tighter hotspot with some spill, whereas the Olight on the right, so the Olight KO02 Pro, it's basically just a giant hotspot. So you do get that little bit of extra throw with the Jetbeam single emitter and a reflector than you do with the Olight's triple emitters and a optic. The battery. So it comes with a 4000 milliamp hour 21700 battery, but the really cool thing is it can actually take 21700s, 2700s, and 18650s. It does also charge them. This will charge whatever battery you put into it, and I'll talk about its competitor in a second. But just one thing I want to draw your attention to is on the back. 5000 milliamp battery for testing, 4000 milliamp hour battery for provided. So we'll take a look at the runtimes in a sec and tell me what you think in the comments. But a couple of more caveats. I haven't actually used this to charge it because I've got a bunch of devices that do have USB-C. Now, I used an iPad's charger at first to plug it in and to get that charging. So it's the iPad Pro, the 11-inch. So now that they've switched to USB-C, it wasn't charging using that. It charges fine with my Android one, but for some reason it just wouldn't take the iPad's one. And at first that annoyed me because I just assumed that maybe this light doesn't have a charging indicator. Then I realized it wasn't charging. So, it will charge with the one it comes with. It'll charge with Android, but for some reason it might not charge with all chargers. So to measure the runtime, I would turn it on turbo and then let it just run for 10 minutes, stop it, and measure the voltage each time. So this keeps putting it straight back up into the highest it can go. It starts off at 4.21 volts and then gradually drops down to about 3.19 volts. So it gets really hot after 10 or 20 minutes, but basically up until about 90 minutes, you still get a decent amount of light. At 90 minutes, once you turn it on, it drops straight to a lower mode. And this still had pretty decent usable light for up to 80 minutes, but not high. Okay, so in terms of competition, there's the most obvious competitor of this light, and they both have their flaws and their awesome points. So this is the Olight KO02 Pro. What you'll notice is they both use a 21700 battery, except Olight actually comes with the 5000 milliamp battery. So I was kind of surprised that, sorry, just trying to get this to focus. I was surprised that they didn't actually include 5000 milliamps, but yeah. So in terms of comparison, Olight has their special battery, and it's designed with a style that lets it work with Olight's proprietary charging system. So once it's closed, you flick on the magnetic MCC charger and it just charges. To do that, it has these batteries where it can access both terminals from one end. Now, I will just clarify, the Olight can take both the Jetbeam battery and the battery that the Olight comes with, obviously, and the Jetbeam can take both batteries too. However, the Olight can only charge these Olight batteries, whereas the Jetbeam can charge both its own battery and the one that came with Olight. And so the reason for this is that the Olight battery is essentially a regular 21700 battery with an extra feature that lets you charge via the magnetic charging system, but it's still just a normal 21700 battery. Whereas this one, normal battery, so once it goes in, it's effectively, you pop a USB cable in, it becomes a battery charger. So I thought that was really cool in that this one can charge a greater variety of battery. The fact that it also takes all of those batteries is really handy, because what it means is that you can buy spare batteries, either 21700s or the 18650s, and you'll have some spare batteries in the house that you can use with this in case of like a power outage, or if you're doing a multi-day trip. And you can get those batteries from anywhere, so they're non-proprietary, they'll still work. So one argument people have against the Olight is that it does its turbo very briefly, doesn't sustain it. So this one does, I think, 3200 lumens. This one does 1800 lumens. The difference is that the Olight will put out 3200 lumens for about 2 minutes, and then it drops it down to about 600 lumens, and you get like, I think, 2.5 hours out of that. Or you can run it at 1200 lumens for almost 2 hours. This one, you put it at 1800, and then it just gradually tapers off over time. So it's a more sustained 1800 kind of concept. In terms of actually being able to tell, to your eyes, 1200 to 1800 isn't too much of a difference. But the bigger deal on that is this has 3 LEDs, and this one has a single LED and a reflector rather than this optic. So you actually get this light concentrated into a little better hotspot, I guess. So functionally, I think the Olight's at about 15 or 16,000 candela at 1 meter. This one does about 18,000. In terms of sizing, let me just close them up again because I think I had them open. So because it only uses a single emitter, your Jetbeam is smaller. It actually fits almost perfectly inside there. They're both single button emitters. This one gives you better indication, so the Olight gives you better indication of what mode you're on and battery. So green, that'll go down to red as the battery dies. So you don't get a mode indicator, but you can generally tell that roughly where you're at when, how much light's coming out. But this is very handy with the Olight that you get to just that little indicator there. Other differences, what was it just then? They both got lockout. This requires proprietary charging. If you lose your cable or whatever on the Jetbeam, you just buy another USB-C cable. In Australia, it's what, $8 or $7 from IKEA, $2 online, whatever. Pocket clips. So one of the big gripe people had with the Olight is you couldn't get a pocket clip. This one comes with a pocket clip, and it's very secure. Can't be reversed, I believe, but it's good where it is, I think. The main issue I've got with this light, to be honest, I'll talk about which one I'm going to carry, but I'm not as fond of the rubber boot. So I've seen different lights implement different ways of waterproofing. Some of them you unscrew and there's the USB port hidden between O-rings. I've seen others where you can slide it out. Some go for Olight's type proprietary charging, whatever they're using. With Phoenix lights, for example, the light is waterproof regardless of whether or not the boot is on, I've been told once. I'm not sure whether this is waterproof with or without the boot, but I know that I had the boot closed and I ran it under some water lightly and it still got some water in. So for me, that's the biggest issue. If you are going to be working in water extensively, wait till I can follow up to find out. For my use, I'm probably going to go back to carrying the Olight simply because I like the grip, which some people have hated, and I like having a bit more spill. However, the reason I really like this is my mum doesn't want to play around with modes. There's another light I've recently pointed out. When you strip out the modes and make the UI a lot easier to use, it opens up that light for a lot more people. So with this light, if I can figure out how to get it all dry inside, I'm going to leave this at my mother's where she can have the light, and she needs to explore the backyard. You just push the button and you get a ton of light, hold it, turn it off, and she can figure out the rest. There's no magnet, so you're not going to get stuff sticking to the bottom of it. And when she needs to charge it, flip it up and plug her phone charger in. So I quite like that simplicity of it, and I think it's got a really good niche. I suspect whatever happened with the water is going to be an issue with my unit, simply because I've never really, when they say it's IPX rated, I've never had an issue with lights from quality companies. So like Jetbeam, I think, is made by Night Eye, which owns, I think they make Nightcore as well, I'm not sure. And you know, some people don't like the quality of them for, I guess, military use, and I can see their point. But for lighter civilian to maybe police duties, this would probably be fine. And I think whatever water thing happened is an issue with this unit. But I want some confirmation as to whether they think it's still waterproof with this off, because I know some companies have made it so that you can't charge it, but water won't get in. So you have to dry it off before you charged it, and it's still waterproof. So that's pretty much my only concern with this light. Aside from that, it's a really good light, good amount of brightness. I think once we're at 1,000 lumens, for the most part, it's just toys. Between 1,000 and 2,000 lumens, you're just splitting hairs, really. So yeah, that is the Jetbeam KO02. Let me know what you think of it in the comments if you have one, or if you have any questions for the company.